Okay, so you should have your math notebook out, ready for our math lesson for today. And just want you to take a second. You don't have to write this down. I just want you to take a second, look at my picture there, and think about my question. How do you like to spend money? Okay, so some of you, if you're like my kids, Ellie just wants to spend money on candy. It seems like she just likes to have candy. Um, Kendall's has changed throughout the years. Now, as a 17-year-old, she likes to spend her money on clothes, right? We all have different preferences. Well, guess what, guys? In order to understand money, you're going to have to understand decimals, right? So we started a little bit about talking about this yesterday. We have this fraction, or sorry, this decimal that we would read 7/10, right? Hopefully you got that TH sound at the end, 7/10. This one looks different because it has a whole number in it. Any number before the decimal point is your whole pieces. So this one, how would you read this one? 1/3. Notice over here I didn't have to say 0 and 7/10. That's just applied, right? You just start with this the first digit that's above 0 and you start reading it that way, 7/10. Okay? So tenths ends with the THS. Now, we didn't get rid of the ones place. It's still here, guys. Right? So still have our ones place. We just now have numbers that are smaller than the whole pieces. Okay, just like the fractions are, right? All right, let's look at this math message page. Now, if we were in the classroom, I would hand this paper out and we would do this together. But instead, let's just talk about it. It says write the following amounts using a dollar sign and a decimal point. Okay, so we've got, let's see what we got here. We've got $3 bills. Okay, that's going to be my whole because that's a whole dollar bill, right? 5 dimes, it's going to be my tenths place, right? Because a dime is worth 1/10 of a dollar. So that's going to go into my tenths place. And a penny. There we go. And we would read that $3.51. Right. Number 2, 3 dimes. Look at that. There's 0 holes, guys. There we don't have any. So we have to mark it with a 0. 0 holes. But we do have dimes that are going to go in the tenths place, right? 3 of them. And then 6 pennies. There we go. All right, number 3. Oh, we have some holes again. $2 bills. So we have a hole we have 2 holes and 7 dimes. Okay, so 7 is going to go in my tenths place. There are no pennies. We have to add the 0 there to hold the place though. Ooh, look at this one. 9 pennies. Okay. 0 holes, 0 tenths, and then our 9 pennies. So we're going to talk today about what this position in our fractions will be called. Okay, so we know that we have our whole, we have our tenths. Today we're going to talk about this place. Think you might have a good prediction on that? We'll see. So guys, how many dimes are in a dollar? I said this earlier. See if you were listening. Hopefully you said 10, right? So what fraction of a dollar is 1 dime? 1/10, right? Well, yesterday we talked about this is another way to write 1/10. Okay, now some people will say, what happened to that 0 there? Okay, well, 0 means nothing, right? So when we're just talking about the fraction of a number, we don't need to have that there. We just read this as 1/10. So how many pennies are in a dollar? Pennies. 100, right? So what fraction of a dollar is 1 penny? Well, it's going to be 1/100th of a penny of a dollar, right? Now, how are we going to write that as a fraction? Or excuse me, that as a decimal? That is going to be 1/100th. So we have our tenths place here, and now we have our hundredths place. Now, some people will read that 0.10 or 0.10. Okay, no, we read that as, well, we can read it as 1/10, or you can read it as 1/100th. Kind of crazy, right? Yeah, that's your hundredths place. Okay, so let's look at this. In dollars and cents notations, guys, the first digit to the right of the decimal point will always stand for dimes, okay? Or the tenths of a dollar, always, okay? Always be your dimes. The second digit will always be your pennies, okay? Or your hundredths of a dollar. So you have your whole, tenths, and hundredths, because there are 10 dimes in a dollar. There are 100 pennies in a dollar. Okay, and here's my whole, right? One whole. Okay, my ones place, my tenths place, my hundredths place. And then here it is just written out really big. Ones place, tenths place, hundredths place. Make sure we have these THs though. Changes the whole meaning when you don't have those. All right, so today we are working on representing decimals with base 10 blocks and pictures. That's our goal for today. So let me show you what that might look like. First, how many longs? Okay, I'm not thinking about place value. Okay, and I know this looks like a grid, a 100-piece grid, but we're just going to think about it as a pizza, right? Because that's what is easy when we're talking about fractions. So how many longs, right here, would you need to cover this whole grid? Let get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We would need 10 logs, right? So what fraction of the grid would be 1 long? If I took one of those away, or one piece of the pizza away, how much would that be? 1/10, right? Or 1/10. Same thing. How many longs would you need to show 4/10 on this grid then? I only need 4/10. Hopefully you said 4 longs, right? 4/10, and then go ahead and write down, I know I'm going through this video very quickly. You're going to have to pause it, guys. But write down next to 4/10 how we would write that as a decimal, right? Hopefully that's what you wrote down, 4/10. What is the fraction and decimal of this picture? So in your notebooks, write that down. What's the fraction? And then tell me what's the decimal. Well, we have 2/10 out of 2 longs out of the 10 that it would take to fill this up. So how would you write that as a decimal then? 2/10, right? Okay. We can do this with our cubes too, guys. Now, if I was going to do the cube, how many cubes would you need to cover this entire grid or this whole pizza? Right? Yeah, 100. And I'm not going to do that because that will take forever. So you would need 100 of these little guys. These are like your pennies, right? 100 of them. And so one of them, if I did a fraction showing what one cube would be 1/100th, And when we go to write this, we would write down, we have 0 wholes, 0 tenths, because there's no longs there, but 1 cube or 1/100th. Okay, let's try this one. How many cubes would you need to cover 5/100ths of the grid? Right? Yeah, we would need 5 of them. So what's that fraction going to look like? 5/100ths. And of course, they're decimal. 5/100ths. The whole would be this whole grid, right? This whole pizza. We don't have that, so it's 0. We don't have any longs, so it's 0 in the 10th place. But we have 5/100ths, 5 cubes, or 5 pennies, right? They mean the same thing. Let's look at 12/100ths. Okay, now I'm going to write this decimal as 12/100ths, right? Because I have 12 individual little cubes. So that could be 12/100ths, but I could also look at it differently. I could trade those in for this one long. Then I'm going to have 1 in my 10ths place and 2 in my ones place. Now it still looks the same written out, but it looks different in my picture, right? That's the only thing that's changed is my picture. How about 21/100ths? I've got my 21 individual cubes. If I want to change my picture, what would I need to trade? Yeah, I still have 0 wholes, but I'm going to trade in for 2 tenths. I still have my 1/100ths, 21/100ths, right? Okay, so like I said, you're going to be representing decimals today with base 10 blocks and pictures. We just walked through that a little bit, and hopefully you added those to your notes. Pause the video, go back and do it again if you need to. Okay. But we're going to look on page 91 because this is going to be your practice for today. Okay, on here, it says write the fraction in equivalent decimal for each grid. Okay, well, I don't have a whole piece here, right? I actually only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cubes out of 100. So I would write that as 8/100ths. And now for my decimal, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. No, for my decimal, we would have had that written down as a 0 for the wholes place, a 0 for the 10th place because I'm not using any longs, and then an 8 in the hundredths place. Okay, let's look at number 2. We have, I know these are 10, so let's count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 71, 72. Well, 72 out of, that should have a 0 there. 72 out of 100, right? And then when I write this decimal, I still don't have a whole piece here, so it's still going to be 0 and 7/10 and 2/100. 72/100. Yeah, I made the mistake there. That needs to be 100 on the denominator. Okay, you're going to finish number 3. And then over here on number 4, 5, and 6, this time they are giving you a grid and you have to color what decimal is given. Now be very careful. On number 4, this is 9/10. This is 9/100. These pictures should look very, very different. Okay, so be careful on that. All right, and then let's see, I think you guys have, yep, one more. Pages 7, 8, and 9, you get to color a part, whatever you want to color it, and then you are going to write the decimal. Okay, write the decimal to match your drawing. All right, guys. Have fun.